I'm Isa Lavahun, and this is SEO in 2025.
Isa, what's your number one SEO tip for 2025?
My number one SEO tip is to master social search.
Master social search. So that sounds like not Google.
Yes, exactly. I think if you have been working in SEO as long as we all have, we've always talked about social signals, right? Social signals, social signals, social signals, and kind of never really leaned into it because I either didn't understand it or didn't really think it was that important, or kind of thought, yeah, social's kind of important, but let's stick to sort of what we know with SEO. And now I find that needs to be a huge part of your SEO strategy. Social search, social intent, behavior, all that sort of stuff needs to be part of your strategy.
So what does an SEO do to get involved in this? Is there data, places that people can go to actually discover what people are actually searching for in social media? And indeed, are people searching for different things on social media?
Absolutely. I mean, in itself, vice president of Google actually said that 40% of a younger generation, so I'd say sort of Gen Z, sort of younger millennials, are actually using TikTok for their discovery. They're using TikTok when they want to find places to eat rather than Google Maps. They're using TikTok when they're traveling to places and they want to see. Because obviously, if you're kind of saying the best, beaches in Bali, if you go on Google, it's going to give you an article maybe from a brand or an article from 3 years ago, which is going to be dated. Whereas if you go on TikTok, it will have a user-generated content that's got the most sort of engagement and the most likes, which is obviously authentic. Obviously, if everyone's liking the same thing, that shows that it's like, it's literally user kind of discovery and user sort of giving you the thumbs up and recommendations. And that's what people are going by at the moment. So in terms of where you look, I'd say look at the social platforms themselves, look at hashtags, look at the trends that are getting really popular. Platforms like TikTok, like Instagram, obviously Facebook's maybe slightly a bit different because, it's kind of a bit more, the audience search is a little bit different. Facebook is more about conversation and community. But I think in terms of discoverability, you are thinking more sort of the TikTok or the Instagram, the Pinterest. And they always have sort of insights and insights tabs, hashtags, engagement, all the topic and trends that you need to follow. So I'd say that would be a really good start and sort of seeing what people are searching for.
Okay, look at social media itself, look at the topics and tags, as you say, and see what people are actively talking about now.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that scares me a little bit about that from a research perspective is I'd be concerned about missing out on opportunities. How do you make sure that you're covering the right opportunities for your market?
Absolutely. So this is where then you align your SEO search kind of data with your social data, because you find a lot of it actually aligns really well. So if you're looking at keywords and you're looking at long tail and you're looking at the sort of questions people are asking, you'll actually then find that that's kind of aligning with the trends and the things that people are looking for in social, because it's all the same audience, right? So the same people that are going on, Google and asking for certain things, if they don't find it in, on search engines, they're going to go for social, or they're going to ask their friends, or they're going to, use different sort of platforms to help them with their discovery. So I would say it's aligning the two. However you do your social, your sort of your search kind of discovery with keyword insight, looking at trends, looking at Google Trends, looking at all the things in terms of what's emerging. A lot of the time they emerge with social. I would also say it's going on the social platforms where your audiences are more likely to hang out. So yes, TikTok is probably for slightly younger audience, whereas maybe Instagram's maybe a little bit older. And even though I was sort of saying Facebook is kind of less discoverable, but you can find out what conversations people are having on Facebook to sort of see what topics and trends are. So it's listening. I think social listening is a huge part of kind of aligning your audience, your market, and how that aligns with your SEO strategy as well.
You say it's all the same audience. Does that mean that you can actually create the same content for social as you can for instance, your website?
Absolutely. But you need to have social in mind, right? So, short like reels, short form video content, you need to kind of find out how you cut through. You can create the same content, but you need to cut it down and you need to format it in a way that actually is more kind of adaptable with social. So for instance, with say TikTok, best travel guide for 5 restaurants to eat in Bali, let's say. It's literally like 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. You need to be really quick because obviously the attention span of people, someone on, on a social platform is going to be a lot sort of shorter than someone reading a long form 1,000 word article on on Condé Nast Travel, let's say. And they're going to be at different stages of their user journey, customer journey, different time that they have. So they might be looking at something on their phone quickly. So you just need to figure out that sort of search, the social behavior, what people are doing at that time, where they're going to be and what sort of device they're looking at as well. Consider all those and just tweaking the content a bit differently. Same concept, same sort of theme, same insight and data, but just kind of structure it in a way that agrees more with the sort of social platform.
That's the second time we've heard Bali. Is this an insight into what you're looking for personally?
Well, to be honest, it's kind of how I've always kind of been lent into sort of social, but it's when I actually took a trip to Bali a couple of years ago. I went for a month and I found I was that user that didn't really find what I was looking for on Google. So I've literally, most of my recommendations, restaurants, beaches, hotels, places to go, I found everything on TikTok. And I would say that I'm not sort of the target TikTok sort of customer. So that's what got me started to think like, wow, okay, so for travel, we used to always go on Google and then you hit a TripAdvisor, you hit so those big kind of travel channels and you kind of go with what they say. But actually, no, there's people out there. So I will go to the Gili Island. I had this drink. This is a drink you need to have. This is the beach. Here's the beach. I'm actually taking a video of the beach itself. So people really, it's nearly like having the virtual reality kind of glasses on where go in and they can actually see what they are looking for rather than someone writing a review or someone kind of putting like a really branded, slick kind of sort of on brand kind of piece of content. It's people really getting onto the grit of like, this is what I want. This is what I'm looking for, you know?
And how different is your search behavior on TikTok compared with Google?
With TikTok, and this is the thing, we are getting lazy. We have things offered to us, right? So it's actually even less about.
Is it just about discovery or you do actively search, yeah?
Way more about discovery. You can actively search, and sometimes I do, especially because of the work I'm in. But a lot of the time it gets served on you. If you search for something once or you watch 2, 3, 4 videos, then TikTok algorithm will go, right, okay, so this is what you're interested in. And then it will start serving you similar content, essentially. So all you need to do is give it a little tweak. And then after that, it kind of gets it and then start serving you the content that you want to look for. So it's the same if you think about how streaming channels like Netflix work. You'll watch a couple of films or you'll watch a couple of, TV series, and then it'll go, you might also like, you must. So it's the same kind of way sort of social platforms and their algorithms work. Because of that, we become a bit lazier and it just turns out to be like less about you going in and typing in keywords. It's more about it being sort of offered to you, served to you.
Absolutely. I call it the shortening tail because almost people don't go to the long tail nowadays because they're served something, they kind of enjoy it and they stick with that, don't they?
Absolutely. Which kind of, you could argue gets you into a little bit of a echo chamber. It gets you into a little tribe, and then you actually not really getting the vast majority of what's out there. But it's attention economy, right? That we're living in an attention economy right now. So the social and search platforms, all they're trying to do is get your attention. So what they're going to do, they're going to kind of give you and offer you the things that you're interested in and or that you've looked at or that you've shown interest in. Then kind of go, oh, what about this? Because they don't want to put you off.
So how does an SEO get into the echo chamber? How does an SEO actually ensure that their content or the content that their social team is producing is actually actively found on TikTok if that's not happening at the moment?
I think a lot of the time, and maybe I might be wrong in some, some industries might work differently, but I think departments work very much in silo. The SEO department and the paid, search department work separately to the social department, and no one really talks to each other. So I think it's kind of merging the two and seeing it as literally the user journey. If I'm booking a holiday, if I'm looking to buy a sofa, if I'm looking to take a hiking trip, I don't just put it on Google and then bish, bash, bosh, gone. The discovery is very different. I might go and look at a review, then I might go on Google, then I might go to the certain brand page or website, then I'll go on social to look at social. So it's kind of that we need to follow the customer. The customer habits have changed, right? So it isn't just about us going and searching. It's about us using different platforms to get our information, looking at user generated content, looking at sort of what the reviews are saying, and then making our imposed decision on what we're going to purchase and what we're going to go for. And I think that's how we as search marketers need to be thinking. So it's kind of, what I've kind of been doing with my clients lately is using social intent to kind of really qualify as in, this is what people are actually looking at. This is the content that they're looking at. This is what the people who are interested in, sustainable fashion. This is the areas that they're talking about in sustainable fashion in social. There, if you then kind of bring that in and feed that into your search insight, then you're creating content that kind of covers both bases. It covers both bases from a sort of search intent and people are looking for stuff, but then you're also creating content that really aligns with social discovery and social intent. You're sort of crossing two for the price of one, I guess, if you kind of merge them right at the start of your strategy, your insights, when you're coming up with campaigns, when you're coming up with content. If you've just always got an ear to sort of what people in the social world are talking about, then you don't miss a trick because you can align search intent with social intent and merge it together.
You mentioned the word content a lot there. How do you try to ensure that the content is spot on to what the user is looking for? Is it just a case of reviewing what already exists and try and make something better?
Yes, but then I also think it's about reoccurring themes, right? So, for instance, I was showing an example to a client the other day in a training session, and it was, say you're a client and you're looking for, you're trying to sell patio chairs over the summer. You sell furniture, you're trying to sell patio chairs. So then what I did was use loads of different keyword insight, looked at Google Trends, looked at exploding topics, looked at sort of SEMrush. Then I went on to social, sort of TikTok, Pinterest. Also went on to like Reddit and Quora as well and see what conversations I had. And there was a reoccurring theme from using Answer the Public, where you kind of see what people are searching for. It was always about looking for chairs for people who are bigger. So, sort of the inclusivity of patio chairs for bigger people who, larger size or taller people. And that theme kept on coming up in every single sort of instance. So when you're looking from a search point of view, when you're looking at social, when you're looking at in conversations and you're listening, like Cora was like, I want to buy a patio chair, but I'm worried about, if there's going to be one that's going to be fit me because I'm quite a bigger size. And that's telling you, that's literally saying from all sides of the sort of search and social kind of insight, inclusive patio chairs is a topic that people want to talk about. And that's the content that you then create. You're still covering the top line of patio chairs. You're talking about outdoor patio chairs in the summer. You're keeping seasonality. But then you're touching on a topic that no one's answering. People are asking, but no one's answering it. So it's literally leaning into recurring themes that you will notice while you do your research and then creating content around it.
And obviously using the language that they're using as well, because they're not necessarily going to say inclusive patio chairs or even bigger ones. It could be plus size or some other phraseology.
Exactly. So you kind of merge it all together and then you make it make sense in terms of how would people search for that. And then you literally create content that joins it all up. And then you're covering both bases in terms of from social discovery and from search discovery. And then obviously making sure you optimize it to be discovered in social. Do you know what I mean? So you're not just thinking about, need to get my website, need to get, optimized so Google can find it. It's like, need to get your website optimized so social platforms can find it as well. You really need to kind of think about that. And when you're putting stuff up on Instagram, Instagram is now so SEO kind of, it's giving you all the tools, putting alt, tags on your images, putting like literally there's so much you can do, but people aren't doing it because they don't see that social as like a search kind of platform you should be using, but you should absolutely be doing that. Same with TikTok, same with Pinterest. It's really making sure you're optimizing social for search and vice versa.
So you say that users often start their journey on TikTok for the discovery phase and then perhaps even go to Google to make a purchase after that. So it's a fairly convoluted user journey for many purchases nowadays. How does an analytics person, an SEO person, measure the value of a convoluted user journey? Is it easy? Is it impossible?
I mean, I guess it's obviously with stuff like referral traffic, if it's coming from social channels, you can find that out. It's assisted conversion. Sometimes you can maybe look at it like that. And just the pure how much engagement your social content has, right? So if you've got social content that's getting views and getting likes and getting people asking questions, and then you're seeing, with traffic, it's going, a certain page is going up, or like even conversion, it's kind of working. There's been loads of social campaigns where then it's kind of gone straight into actually conversion and driving sales because everyone's talking about it on social. There's companies now that don't even bother having a website. They just create a TikTok store, they create an Instagram store, and then they sell directly from social. This is all giving you signs that, you really need to be thinking of social commerce as well as kind of social discovery, into really thinking about how you bind the two to make sure you've got those metrics key in place where people are understanding. I'm going on, sometimes they may start on Google. They might go and Google and go, oh, I'm not finding what I want. Let me go on TikTok and then I'm going to search. Or sometimes they might discover something on TikTok and go, oh, let me go and Google and see what there is. One thing I will say about social platforms is the trust still isn't there as strong as it is on search platforms. Platforms, especially like TikTok, is filled with misinformation and disinformation. So I guess even though that discoverability is there and it gives you kind of an insight and the user-generated content is brilliant, when you're then going to make a booking or you're then going to check out, the hotel, you're then going to check out, then you're more likely to use a search like Google because you've got that trust there. If I Google something and something comes up, then that brand or that platform is going to be reputable. So this is why they both need to work hand in hand. I mean, I say cheekily, TikTok, watch out, Google, TikTok's coming for your crowd. But maybe not yet in that sense because that trust hasn't been kind of built yet. And, platforms like TikTok still need to work on their vetting their content because not all of it is kind of 100% credible.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time thinking about social search in 2025?
I think stop following the algorithm. I know it's like, stop following, the Google ranking factors and, all that kind of stuff. Follow the audience, follow your audience, where they go, where they hang out, what they're searching for, what they're interested in, how their buyer behavior has changed, how their search intent has changed. Literally get into their minds and figure out how they are looking for stuff. Become the customer. You are also the customer. We are marketers, but we're also customers. So how would you find something? How would you discover something? And get your strategy, at least have some kind of, get that to have to inform your strategy way more than you are already, I would say.
Isa Lavahun is search strategist and trainer at Lavely, and you can find her over at digiprcoms.com. Isa, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Thanks for having me.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at seoin2025.com.